What's up, everybody? It's another edition of the Fast Break. I am 𝗙𝗵𝗃 Johnson, and yes, it's August, but that doesn't mean we still don't have Bulls things to talk about. And the first topic is the never-ending saga of Josh Giddey. Bulls fans are in a little bit of a panic. I'm here to tell you that I think this will come to, obviously, a conclusion at some point, but let's talk through the different options. First of all, the Bulls do have a long-term offer on the table, believed to be in the neighborhood of $20 million a year. It's pretty well documented that Josh Giddey and his representatives are seeking in that $30 million range. So there's still a pretty significant gulf financially. The difference in this restricted free agency situation from a prior one that's high profile is, unlike the Lauri-Markkanen situation, the Bulls have given no indications league-wide of being amenable to a sign-and-trade option. So that means even if a team at this point, unforeseen, swooped in to offer a sign-and-trade package, the Bulls may very well not engage. If it's a good offer, obviously they would consider it. But for the most part, look, the Bulls traded 𝗪𝗛ce Caruso to acquire Josh Giddey. They liked the way Josh Giddey played basketball for them. They're just putting a price tag that is indicative of his market on the table. They want Josh Giddey in a Bulls uniform long term. So I still see this reaching a positive conclusion. The question, of course, is what kind of mental effect or mental toll this will take on Josh Giddey. These are never fun going through these negotiations. Obviously, Josh Giddey ended last season on a high, and obviously wants to come into camp in a positive mindset. That's part of what professional sports and the big business of basketball is all about. Let's talk about the nuclear option, which is Josh Giddey playing on the qualifying offer. That is $11.1 million. He has until October 1st to accept that offer. So this could still drag out for a little bit. But look, we all seen with the NBA trade deadline what happens when deadlines present themselves. That's usually when action takes place. I do think this will probably reach a conclusion sometime in September. I don't think it'll go right to that October 1st deadline. But let's say Josh Giddey opts to play on the qualifying offer of $11.1 million. That means he would be an unrestricted free agent in the 2026 offseason. There are plenty of teams that project to have ample salary cap space then. The Bulls still could pay him more than any of those teams because of bird rights and the ability to go a fifth year on an extension. So that would push the story and his future, long-term future, off for a whole nother season. There are some not great things for restricted free agents who play on the qualifying offer. The big one is that if you are traded during the season, you lose your bird rights, which gives the team that acquired you the inability to extend you at a high number. So I keep saying this with Josh Giddey. I do think this is going to reach a conclusion with him in a Bulls uniform for years to come. It just may not be at the $30 million price tag that Josh initially sought. All right, last week the NBA schedule came out, and my man Cam Smith and I broke it down for you on our By the Horns podcast. You can check that out on our website or online at YouTube. But I'm here to talk about it in a little bit different detail. Cam and I focus on individual games. I'm looking more at schedule blocks. And I'm also looking at a very key component to every NBA team's schedule, and that is the number of back-to-backs. Yes, the Bulls actually have quite the favorable schedule when it comes to back-to-backs. They have only 13 back-to-backs, and they face opponents finishing a back-to-back 15 times. That's a +2 margin in that important category. Only 10 of the 30 NBA teams have this +2 advantage or more. The leader is at +4. That's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks. The lowest of the NBA is Denver Nuggets, who have a -4 discrepancy in this category. So that's a little schedule minutia. But look, it's favorable for the Bulls, especially because a lot of those 13 back-to-backs are here at the United Center. So they have a chance to obviously sleep in their own beds. It doesn't involve a travel or a back-to-back with one game on the road and one game at home. So this is some favorable stuff for the Bulls. As for those blocks, I'm focused on 4 of them. We're going to try to run through them pretty quickly here. The first one is those first 14 games. There's no sugarcoating this. The Bulls have a very, very difficult schedule out of the gate. I think it's going to really kind of set the tone for their season. They face some extremely high-quality opponents. in those first 14 games. Obviously, 4 of those first 5 are at the United Center, including the home opener against the Detroit Pistons. But they face the Eastern Conference finalists, New York Knicks, twice. They have a back-to-back at Milwaukee and at Cleveland, who had obviously the best NBA regular season or Eastern Conference regular season record last season. And it concludes with a 4-game trip, including 3 games on the West Coast. So that's a very, very difficult schedule. On the flip side of that, the Bulls have the opportunity for some serious home cooking both in December and late February into March. In December, they have a 6-game homestand starting the day after Christmas, December 26th, where they face the 76ers and the Bucks back-to-back at home. They also face the Minnesota Timberwolves with a day off in between before facing the Pelicans, and then conclude with another back-to-back against the Magic and Hornets. So those are 2 of those home back-to-backs I was talking about earlier, where obviously it's favorable for the Bulls because you're sleeping in your own bed. That 7-game homestand, season high in February, is right out of the All-Star break. It bleeds into March. That's how long it is. And check this out. There's only 1 back-to-back on this 7-game homestand. That's against the Pistons and Knicks. Otherwise, they face the Raptors, Hornets, Trailblazers, Bucks, and Thunder. So obviously those last 2 opponents are extremely challenging. The defending NBA championship Thunder also feature in my last set schedule block that I'm talking about, which is the end of March and into April. Yes, the Bulls conclude with 8 of their final 11 games away from the United Center on the road. That includes a ridiculous back-to-back at the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending NBA champions, and the Memphis Grizzlies. That's part of a 4-game trip that also ends at the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. So that's a pretty challenging stretch right there. It concludes with a closing game against Cooper Flagg and the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas that could decide play-in, playoff positioning, seeding. So that's why the Wizards' 2-game set on that stretch, where they play the Washington Wizards in D.C. twice in 3 days with a day off in between, is going to be crucial. The Wizards are not competing for anything. They're competing for ping pong balls. You got to win both those games in D.C. to take advantage of a really, really challenging stretch of 8 of 11 on the road. All right, our third topic today for this episode of the Fast Break is there's some really cool events coming up at the United Center. They start with this weekend, August 23rd and 24th. Bulls Fest is back after a year hiatus. There's everything you need if you're a basketball fan. There's 3-on-3 tournament for all ages across 50 courts. There's a 3-point challenge and a slam dunk contest judged by some former Bulls players. There's youth clinics. Betty the Bull obviously will be here, the Bucket Boys, Level Bulls. A lot of former Bulls. Let's run them down. Judd Bushler, Horace Grant, Eddie Curry, my man Bill Cartwright, Kendall Gill, and Will Perdue. For more information, you can check it out at bulls.com/bullsfest. But that's not it. There's actually a little bit of an underpublicized event on August 27th. An organization called 𝗵50 for the Fallen is playing host to the inaugural United Center 5K to 50-mile challenge. That's right. Teams of 4 to 10 people can sign up and run distances right here inside the United Center through the concourses, ranging from 5 kilometers, which is 3.1 miles, to 50 miles. And this is for a great organization, as I mentioned, called 𝗵50 for the Fallen. It was founded by combat veterans and Green Berets to help fund therapy programs, peer support, networks, and other needed services for veterans' mental health. It also extends out to police officers, firefighters, and EMS professionals. So really cool event. And if you want more info, you can check it out at 𝗵50ftf.org. All right, our last topic is back to the Bulls and on the basketball court. And yes, next week we'll feature the second off-season gathering for informal workouts for your very own Chicago Bulls. Last year they did this once in Miami. It was organized by Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. The Bulls have already gathered once this offseason in Los Angeles for these pickup runs and workouts and team bonding. They are doing it again next week back in Miami. And yes, Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White will be there. Ayo has told me in Vegas that he's not only excited for these games, but also he feels like he's ahead of schedule in his rehab from shoulder surgery. The big question is, will Josh Giddey make an appearance? I do not know that answer as of this taping, but if I find it out, we'll feature it in some kind of content coming up here at Chicago Sports Network. So we certainly thank you for checking out this episode of the Fast Break. We will be back with more off-season content when news breaks, and we thank you for watching.